Hello, welcome to Croft for the 5th and 6th round of the Touring Car Trophy, including TCR UK. I'm here with the commentator Andy McEwen. Now, yesterday we had the qualifying session as always, and Lewis Kent looking very, very fast.
He is, isn't he? But he was fast last time at Donington Park as well, and things didn't necessarily quite go to plan. So he's in good spirits this morning, feels that he's got a really good chance of getting some wins, and he could do with them as well. We were working it out. He's only about 13 points off the championship lead coming in here, despite the fact he didn't race at Alton and had a non-finish at Donington as well. So all to play for, and he really does need some good results.
Yeah, we'll come to a lot of the drivers as we start seeing them arrive on the grid. They're actually doing their first of 2 warm-up laps here of Croft. They always go around twice, which means they'll go through the pits, come around again. But we'll talk about some of the drivers as we go through it. But currently leading the championship is Carl Swift. Now, Carl raced the first race meeting in Alton Park. He was never going to do a full season anyway, but weirdly enough, he is still top of the pile. Although every single race, that's been chipped away, chipped away, chipped away. And James Turkington looking pretty good as well.
Who'd have thought it, eh? A Turkington who's quite handy in touring cars. He's getting quicker, isn't he, as well? He had his first round in the TCR car last time at Donington. Really raced well. His qualifying pace wasn't necessarily all that much to write home about, but his racecraft was fantastic. He looked after the tyres well. He was quicker at the second half of the race than most. And yet here, he's qualified at the front of the grid as well. So if he can maintain that race pace as well, maybe a first ever TCR win could be coming his way.
Yeah, absolutely. And he really was Mr. Consistent, because we had fourth for James Turkington. He got his first podium last time. Let's head down to the grid though, and you can actually have a close look at some of the cars. Why don't you have a little wander around the cars? Myself and Andy will carry on chatting there. So looking at the cars, looking at the teams, we can see the front row here. We've mentioned Lewis Kent, we've also mentioned James Turkington, but a little bit further back is the man from China, Sonny Wong,
who has really impressed me this weekend, considering he'd never seen this place until probably Friday when he did some testing, and he stuck it on the second row of the grid in a car he's not that familiar with. Didn't race last time at Donington, remember, as well, because of commitments over at the Nürburgring. He is definitely an outside bet, not even an outside bet, a genuine bet, I think, for a podium. And again, an early season championship contender still. If he can find some pace to challenge for race victories, yeah, we could see him at the front for the rest of the year. Yeah,
some very impressive drives from the top 3 on the grid here, as well as further back. Henry Neal just coming round now as well. Henry Neal's now parked up. They've got the pneumatic lifts up, so the car is now off the ground. As you can see, the pneumatic jacks on these cars, actually, it's not like a regular jack if you need to change your tyres, although we won't talk about cars with Andy because he's had quite some time of it with cars recently. But if you have a look at Henry Neal just there with the Dynamics team working with him, very, very confident, a little bit further back there, a little bit confident, isn't he, or very confident when it comes to racing, and he's had some good results too if we ignore that first round at Alton Park.
Yeah, I think he'd rather forget that ever happened as well. Had really good pace, and we thoroughly enjoyed the battle that he had with Ollie Taylor, but it did rather end in tears. He is the top NGTC car as well, so the top Touring Car Trophy entry on the grid. There is a balanced performance in this championship that means that neither the TCR or the NGTC cars have an advantage. Part of that means that some of the cars have to carry more weight, and I wonder whether that's maybe hurting me here. This is quite a stop-start circuit, and if you've got extra weight in the car, that will hurt your tyre wear, and it will hurt your acceleration out of the tight corners as well. 4th place isn't terrible, but he'll definitely be targeting the podium, and hopefully a race win today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at it, I think quite a lot of these guys have only done 1 lap on their formation lap. So James Turkington has moved from his car that he was originally in Alton Park. He's now in the TCR car, which he was at Donington Park. So he seems to have taken to this car very nicely.
Yeah, he has experience of sort of driving similar cars. Remember, he entered the first round of the season in a Seat Leon Super Copa, which is a front-wheel drive hatchback touring car style car. This car, though, has more power, it's much more racy on the suspension, and he took to it like a duck to water, he really did. Of course, he can get some advice from his older brother, I'm sure, currently leading the BTCC, and did rather well here a few weeks ago as well. One of the key things this weekend, I think, as well to talk about is this new surface at Croft. It's been resurfaced over the winter. Traditionally, it was a real tyre killer, and that would hurt these front-wheel drive cars. That doesn't necessarily seem to be something they have to worry about now. This new surface is better on the tyres. It's a lot grippier as well, so we're going to see new lap records left, right and centre today, I think, as well. And that's just another thing for these drivers to get used to today.
Yeah, although, talking to the drivers yesterday, they were all saying it's really hard to find grip out here. That's what they were saying yesterday. Now, I suspect that was because yesterday the track was very green. When they went out for their first practice, it was all fine, but qualifying, there hadn't been a lot of running on the track, and they just came after lunch. So it was one of these things that the track had a reduced temperature and was green again. So it is going to be quite exciting. Now, I know you need to go and get ready, so while Andy rushes off to his commentary post, we'll catch you later on, we'll grab a few words with some of the drivers. Let's go over this way first, though, and catch up with James Turkington. If I can get into his car, and we'll try and force the mic into his face. So we'll see what James has got to say from his qualifying session yesterday. If I can get this down, I always fail when it comes to these safety nets. But James, looking very good in this new car since you took to it at Donington.
Yeah, really enjoying driving the Cupra, and obviously a great qualifying here yesterday at Croft. So yeah, looking forward to the race to see what we can do.
Yeah. Now looking ahead, you've only got one car diagonally opposite, and that's Lewis Kent. He looks pretty fast here as well.
Yeah, he had a good pace yesterday and good pace at Donington. So yeah, we're up for it. So yeah, looking forward to it.
What's your action plan? Nail him off the start, or are you going to try and sit behind him and see if he's got enough fuel in his car? Because I know that was one issue at one race.
Yeah, I've obviously done limited starts, but we've been working hard on that. So just try to maximise the start and see where we end up.
Right, okay, well, good luck. I'm going to leave you to put your mesh back up, sorry. There we go, so that's James Turkington there. Thank you very much. So I always disrupt the teams here on the grid. Let's go over to Lewis Kent. I mentioned the fuel issue with them. They had a race, they were looking really good for a race win. Ran out of fuel on the last, well, pretty much the last corner anyway. Now, this is something that the team have learnt from, clearly, and Lewis Kent is looking very, very fast in this car, and no problems ahead of this weekend.
No, we're hoping for a clean weekend this weekend. We're just hoping for a good start. Same sort of start as Donington. But then, yeah, just push away from there. Try and get a nice even gap from James behind us, the rest of the cars, and, yeah, just work our way away. We know we've got the race pace. We can put in the times from qualifying over and over again. So if we can do that, then, yeah, we should be sorted.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Good luck, though. All you got to do is make sure you keep James Turkington, Sonny Wang, and all the others away from you there. Talking about Sonny, if we go down to see Sonny, he's been away, as Andy was saying, and he's been pretty good since he's come here. This is a circuit he doesn't know, remember. Whenever Sonny comes to any of these tracks, he has to learn them from scratch. He doesn't have any prior knowledge of them. But as we go further back here, we see where Henry Neal is, and he's got a fair bit to make up on track, only fourth on grid. So he's got a fair bit to go, but he's in pretty good fettle there, as you see. And that car is always very, very impressive, put together by Team Dynamics. And as we head over to the other side, the only rear-wheel car on the grid, Alex Day here in the Audi. It's the only rear-wheel car. It's going to be interesting to see how that performs on a track that has been relayed, as Andy was saying. And then we've got Darrell Wilson at the back of the grid, and Richard Woods here looking very impressive in that car when you consider he's pretty new to TCR as a Formula and TCT. So I think we're pretty much ready. Let's hand over to the race commentator we heard from just a few moments ago, Andy McEwen. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Yeah, very much looking forward to this then, the newly resurfaced Croft circuit for this weekend, playing host to rounds 5 and 6 of the 2019 TCR UK Championship and the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy. And there is your front row, the Hyundai i30N of Lewis Kent, alongside the Cupra TCR of James Turkington, with his best qualifying effort of the season so far, by quite some way, and he will, as I alluded to on the grid, we expect to see good race pace from James. That's definitely something we saw at Donington Park last time out, where, remember, he was making his TCR debut, having started the season in that Seat Leon Super Copa car. This is a different beast altogether, and he seems to have acclimatised to TCR racing really well and pulled off some spectacular moves, particularly in that second race of the weekend, where he was able to come through and take a podium finish. So James Turkington, the man from Portadown in Ireland, 25-year-old, who is most definitely following in the footsteps of his older brother Colin. Behind him, Henry Neal, the son of three-time British Touring Car Champion Matt Neal, the top NGTC car. The NGTC cars all running in the Touring Car Trophy. He and Alex Day, therefore, in the Audi A4 rear-wheel drive car that Bryn was mentioning there, will be contesting the Touring Car Trophy class victory today. The revs are starting to rise then. The green flag is waved, and the green flag lap underway then. So the last chance for the drivers to get to grips with this circuit, find out what the track conditions are like today. This is the first on-track action today as well. We've had no support races this morning, so this may well be a slightly green circuit. I don't think we had any rain last night though, so it should be in more or less the same state that they left it yesterday after qualifying. So Lewis Kent then on the pole position. He was on pole position last time at Donington Park though, and didn't manage to come away with the results that he was hoping for. Can he go better this time around, I wonder? Alongside him, James Turkington in the green and white Maximum Motorsport prepared Cupra. There he is, second on the grid. In third position, Sonny Wong, the Chinese champion, in the blue Golf run by the Sicily Racing Squad, and he will definitely be keen to try and get his first podium or second podium, I should say, of the season. He inherited a podium at Alton Park early this season after some dramas for Henry Neal and Ollie Taylor. And Sonny third on the grid on his first ever visit to the Croft circuit here up in Yorkshire. Very impressive indeed. Then alongside him on the second row of the grid is Henry Neal. I don't think that smokes anything too much to worry about from Sonny's car, but yes, Henry Neal alongside him in the number 42 Honda Civic NGTC car. Those cars, as I said, they run with various balanced performance measures that equalise the TCR and the non-TCR cars, and perhaps that is what's hurting Henry slightly this weekend. It seems to be a circuit that maybe favours the TCR cars a little. Then row number 3 is where we find the second of the TCT cars, Touring Car Trophy cars. That's Alex Day in the rear-wheel drive Audi, who could well be one to watch for at the start. Rear-wheel drive cars have a bit of an advantage off the line traditionally. So the Audi there, the grey and red car, 5th on the grid, could move forward off the line. And then alongside, Richard Woods making his TCR debut, making his Touring Car Trophy debut as well, actually. He was due to race at Donington Park in an S2000 Ford Focus, which in fact he was due to race here as well. But unfortunately, on both occasions, mechanical dramas ruled that car out. This time around, though, there was the backup of racing in the formerly Carl Swift-owned Cupra. It is now owned by Maximum Motorsport, and Richard will be piloting the number 4 car from 6th on the grid, and that's the car that Mark Wakefield drove last time out at Donington Park, and starred in, rather. Darrell Wilson will round out the 7-car field in his Vauxhall Astra TCR. He had some setup issues yesterday. They changed the setup between practice and qualifying, and it didn't really have the desired effect, and then after qualifying they went back to their Donington Park setup. Now I know that Donington Park and Croft are 2 different circuits, but they seem to think that might be what they need to make their way a little bit further up the grid. So that's how they line up then for our first race. 23 minutes plus 1 lap, the distance for round number 5 of the TCR UK Championship for 2019. Lewis Kent and James Turkington make up the front row of the grid as the revs start to rise, and we prepare to go racing here for the first time today at the Croft circuit. Who gets the start? Who gets into turn 1 first? Bit of creeping there from Lewis Kent. He's away very, very quickly though, and there's no doubt about it. He will lead down to Clervaux for the first time. Alex Day has had a storming start in the rear-wheel drive Audi to go second on the run into the first corner, getting past both James Turkington and Sonny Wong. Darrell Wilson's had a good start as well, and he's passed a couple of cars too. But what a start that was from Alex Day from 5th on the grid. He is the man who in the early stages is going to take the challenge to Lewis Kent, who is still searching for his first ever victory in TCR machinery. All cleanly away though. Henry Neal has had a slightly sluggish start, unfortunately. That's been a bit of a trend this year, but his race pace is fairly strong. He should be able to move forward. Sonny Wong attacking up the inside, the 3rd position at Tower Corner. James Turkington just struggling to get tyre temperature up, maybe in that Cupra TCR car. As I mentioned, at Donington, his pace definitely improved in the second half of the race, so we may be expected to see him playing the defensive game in the early stages, but he should find better speed later on. Sonny has a look at the inside. There was a bit of a lock-up in front of them for one of the top 2 cars, but they're all safely through. Sonny in. Alex Day goes rally crossing coming out of the corner though. Did a really good job to hang on to that, but he'll have dirt all over the tyres, and that will allow Lewis Kent to escape further up the road. Look at the lead that the Hyundai has. It's Alex Day second, James Turkington third, looking up the inside, but can't quite do it into the middle portion of the complex. And then down to the hairpin, where perhaps a bit later in the race we may see some dive bomb moves up the inside. On this first lap though, everybody minding their P's and Q's. Sonny Wong is looking racy here though, and keen to get past James Turkington if he can. He maybe feels he's got the pace to go after the leading 2. Across the start-finish line they go. James Turkington is really having to mirror drive here to keep the Chinese driver behind. Cupra, VW, Vauxhall, Honda, and then another Cupra all in line, fighting for the bottom step of the podium here in the early stages. But at the head of the field, Lewis Kent has checked out. He is a country mile away from the rest of the field at the end of the opening lap, and he's going to take some catching, I think, in this race. He maybe has been criticised in the past though for not looking after his tyres so well, so he'll be hopefully managing the tyre situation here in the early stages. As I said, this is a bit of a venture into the unknown with this new surface that they've not raced on before. They don't really know how much they have to manage the tyres in the early stages. The Jim Clark S's then, this very quick left-right flick, try not to run too wide on the exit. James Turkington seems now to be finding his feet a bit more, but Sonny Wong goes for it. Surely he won't stop the car. No, runs out straight on, does well actually to stay on the black stuff, but that was a real dive bomb move into a corner you do not see that much overtaking, and that's why, because it's quite hard to get the car stopped at the best of times, let alone when you brake super late on the tight inside line. And Sonny Wong, who is not only learning how to quickly drive around these circuits, but also learning how to race around these circuits, where you can pass, where it's maybe advisable to stay in line. And I think on that occasion he discovered that Sunny In, ironically, maybe not the best place for Sunny Wong to make an overtake. Back out of the hairpin they go then. James Turkington, I think, is going to have to watch his mirrors quite a lot in the early stages of this race. Sunny Wong all over him like a bad suit as they go into the first corner, clobbering the curbs. In fact, Sunny Wong takes a bit of a bite out of the recticel barrier that's placed on the apex of that corner to deter the drivers from corner cutting. Darrell Wilson there with Henry Neal behind him. So Henry, another driver who maybe you'd say is a bit out of position here, only 4th on the grid. He's dropped down to 6th place in the early stages, but he has been having a little bit of a go at getting past Darrell Wilson's Astra in the early stages of this race. And they go into the hairpin at the end of the previous lap, and I think that may well be where the NGTC car has the chance to go through, because they do appear to be a little bit better on their brakes. They are able maybe to carry a bit more corner speed, and that may be where Henry Neal decides to launch the attack. I don't think he's quite close enough into Sunny In. There's no mistake coming for the time being from Darrell Wilson either. Richard Woods staying with them well as well. Not bad for his first ever appearance in a TCR car. And as you can see, the field is fairly tightly bunched together, with the one exception, and that one exception being Lewis Kent, who is checking out at the head of the order. But then we've got these two three-car battles developing, really. 2nd, 3rd and 4th, Day, Turkington and Wong are together. And then 5th, 6th and 7th, which is Wilson, Neal and Woods. They are also grouping together. What is definitely happening is that James Turkington and Sunny Wong are starting to catch now the 2nd place man Alex Day. Behind, I think there was a change, was there not? Because Henry Neal has possibly, no, he's not got past Sunny Wong, but I think he and Richard Woods appear to have got past Darrell Wilson. So Wilson now down to the back of the field, unfortunately, in the green Astra. Didn't see where that happened, but we have to assume it was at the hairpin. That is where I thought that Henry might be able to attack, and there he is, the blue and grey Honda Civic into 5th place now, and he's bringing Richard Woods with him. Richard, who we've not seen racing in this championship before, but clearly is a fairly handy peddler. We know the car is quick. That is the car, essentially, that is leading the championship at the moment, albeit after the 2 results that Carl Swift scored in it at the start of the season at Alton Park, a win and a 3rd place finish at Alton for Carl Swift in that car. This is its 3rd different driver this season, though, but each one of them has been able to show good pace, and it's a good-looking car as well, the Maximum Motorsport prepared machine. Off has gone Sunny Wong. Sunny Wong is off, and I think that might be a problem, is it? He's going rather slowly as he tries to get back on the road, but I fear that the number 12 car, unfortunately, after a starring start to the race, has hit strife, and yeah, he's going to do well to get back to the pit lane, I fear. Now, what is that? That looks... I couldn't see any punctures or any damage to the car, so possible drive shaft issue there maybe for Sunny Wong. The drive shafts really do take a pounding around here at Croft, because you use a lot of curb, and there's a lot of lap time to be gained from using the curbs around here as well. So I wonder whether or not maybe that's what the issue is for the Chinese driver. That's a shame though, because as we'd said, he was running really well in the early stages of this race. So that leaves Lewis Kent now still out in front, with Alex Day still 2nd and James Turkington still 3rd. But Henry Neal is the man on the move now, because that's 2 positions gained in just under a lap, and he's getting away now from Richard Woods and Darrell Wilson as well. So can Henry Neal bridge the gap to these two, who are now fighting for 2nd place? Alex Day, who got a podium at Alton earlier on this season, since then hasn't been able to return to the top 3 positions. He's also the TCT leader in this race, remember though. No points scored in TCT. It's just a trophy for the race winner, but he will certainly be looking to try and get that class victory if at all possible. He is going to have to go some here, I think, because Henry Neal is likely to catch these two. There he is, Henry Neal, the blue car in the background, then 2nd in TCT. And James Turkington, the green Cupra in between them, running in the TCR class, but they all fight for overall positions as well. You score points, though, just for TCR, so it's only the TCR cars that score championship points. And in the championship, going into this round, Carl Swift did have that 5-point lead, but he's, as we've documented, not racing here this weekend, so James Turkington essentially becomes the points leader by a further 5 points over Mark Wakefield, who's not here. So really it's between Turkington, Wong and Kent this weekend to see who comes out of Croft as the TCR UK points leader. Right now it looks as though James Turkington should be able to move into that points lead after this race, but Lewis Kent, if he can hang on to this victory, would score 25 very nice championship points. And that is looking increasingly likely because he is continuing now to stretch away at the top of the timing sheets. The gap is growing lap by lap. And as Alex Day now has to maybe start watching his mirrors and driving more and more defensively, that gap is only going to get bigger. I'd say the gap between third and fourth is coming down though, isn't it? I think Henry Neal is starting to make some inroads, so I see a three-way battle for second place in our near future here, because the Audi and the Cupra are now, I think, starting to hold each other up ever so slightly. And there, Henry Neal just inching back towards them lap by lap. It's only a tenth or so here and there, but we still have nearly 15 minutes plus one lap to go, so essentially another 17 minutes of racing still to go in this race. That is plenty of time for Henry to reel these two in, especially if they start really tripping over each other. In the background, look, Darrell Wilson is back ahead of Richard Woods now as well, so that's Wilson into 5th position. Sonny Wong, I can tell you by the way, did make it back to the pit lane, but via the back entrance to the paddock, just where our camera position is here on the inside of the hairpin. On the inside at the hairpin, here goes Richard Woods as he tries to reclaim this 5th position now from Darrell Wilson. How's the straight line speed of the Astra? Pretty good, it would seem. He's able to keep the Cupra at bay. Flicks into the corner. that Astra is sideways more than it's pointing in the right direction. It's hugely spectacular to watch. It rarely has all four wheels on the ground. But it still seems to have decent pace, and Darrell certainly gets stuck into his racing. He's a great character as well to chat to in the paddock, and a real advocate of the TCR formula. And he is one of the drivers who stuck around for a second season of racing in TCR UK in the distinctive green Vauxhall Astra that was plagued by mechanical misfortune really in 2018, and they've had slightly better luck in 2019. It's really been more a case of trying to find the right setup on the car, but because of the lack of running they had last year, that's been a challenge. There is going to be no challenge at this rate to Lewis Kent though. Look at that, he's got the entire length of the straight between Sonny and the entrance to the complex, between himself and the second place battle. Where has Richard Woods gone? There is Richard Woods. Now he's going slowly, and that's up at Sonny again, so that clearly seems to be the part of the circuit that everyone is choosing to have mechanical problems at, as James Turkington makes his move up the inside of Alex Day. This is for second position, and James Turkington, perhaps seeing Henry Neal closing in on them, has been spurred into action, but there was no way through at the hairpin, and the Audi with its rear-wheel drive advantage did have better traction off the corner. You can see why James Turkington needs to get a hurry up here though, because Henry Neal in 4th place has just set the fastest lap of the race now, so that is proof, if ever anyone were needed, that he's catching them. He runs a bit wide through the never-ending right-hander at Hawthorn. But James will really want to try and get past Alex Day here before Henry Neal arrives on his tail. Another dive up the inside, gets the car stopped, does he? James Turkington, I think this time has gone through. Yes, that was a really nice move. This is what we saw from James at Donington last time out. He's really good on the brakes, but Alex Day, with that superior traction off the corner, is coming back home up the inside into the Jim Clark S's, wheel to wheel through the fastest part of the circuit, and not a hint of contact made. And unfortunately, that might cost Alex Day another position, because Henry Neal now sees the chance to get up the inside. Can he go into 3rd position? Alex runs wide at Sonny in. He's on the dirty side of the road, and I think Neal is going to go through. But that was fabulous racing between Turkington and Day there. And fair play to Alex, he wasn't backing out of that without a fight. But in the end, it cost him a podium position. There's Richard Woods' car in the pit lane. Now, there is a bit of damage to the front right corner. I wonder if he's clipped a tyre stack somewhere. That is quite a common issue here at Croft, these tyre stacks that sit on the apexes of some of the corners to deter drivers from cutting them. The trouble is, if you hit them, you damage your car, which is why they're there, of course, to stop people from taking liberties with track limits, but it can be sometimes rather a severe penalty. Either way, whatever the issue is, it now means he's a lap down in the pit lane and perhaps out of the race. Let's hope they can get the car sorted for race 2 later on. So now we get to sit back and enjoy Turkington versus Neal, which is something we've enjoyed for years and years in touring car racing in the UK. But now it is very much the next generation going at it on the circuit, with James Turkington and Henry Neal about to do battle for 2nd position. Now remember, they're racing in different classes, so points-wise, this doesn't actually really matter too much to James Turkington. He could allow both of these cars back through if he wanted, and would still finish 2nd in TCR. However, he will, I'm sure, want to hang on to 2nd place overall if he can. He is a racer after all, and getting quicker and quicker every time he gets into that car. Henry Neal is getting very out of shape through Barcroft there. That is the fastest part of the circuit, and that car was dancing around all over the place. Supreme car control from Henry, and it seems to be the quickest way through the corner, because he did definitely gain on James Turkington that time. Through the complex they come. 10 minutes, just over 10 minutes to go. Lewis Kent goes through onto another lap. James Turkington, Henry Neal about to contest this second position. Of course, the move that Henry just made on Alex Day was also for the TCT class lead, so that was a move of some significance for him. Gap not coming down actually all that substantially on that occasion, so now that James Turkington is in clean air in second position, he does appear to be able to at least match the lap times of Henry Neal. Can he maybe go quicker and pull out this advantage? We'll find out, I suppose, over the next lap or so. As we get into the final third of the race, that's where tyre wear starts to become a factor as well. And we may see that car, the Audi of Alex Day, come back into it, because the rear-wheel drive car is a little bit lighter on its tyres. With the front-wheel drive car, the front wheels are having to handle the application of the power, the bulk of the braking, and, of course, turning the car through the corners. And so particularly here, with lots of high-speed right-handers, the front left tyre takes a real beating on a front-wheel drive car. Rear-wheel drive cars, they spread the load across both axles, with the rear wheels powering the car and the front wheels just dealing with turning the thing. So the Audi perhaps might have better pace in the second half of the race. There may also be some difference between the TCR cars and the NGTC cars as to which has the slightly better longevity of tyres. Right now, it does seem that on this particular lap, the advantage is with the Honda in third place, because Henry Neal is now a bit closer to James Turkington than he was a lap ago. He isn't close enough to attack into the hairpin, but James doesn't exactly hook up the apex perfectly. Then in a straight line, it may be that the Cupra has the slight edge. It's fascinating racing, this. Henry Neal flashing the lights, more in hope than anticipation of forcing a mistake out of the race leader, I fear. James clobbering the curb, doesn't make that many mistakes really, but Henry will be hoping he can force one out of the Irishman. Through Hawthorne they will go. Of course, we saw these two cars doing battle at Alton Park as well. Henry Neal racing at that time Ollie Taylor, the runner-up in the championship last year. Well, he was racing the car that James Turkington is now in, and raced it to a race victory in the end in race 2. So we've seen these two cars on track quite a lot this year. They were doing battle, these two, at Donington as well. So they know each other reasonably well, and they used to race each other in the mini challenge. And James was telling us at Donington last time out that he felt like it was a bit of a mini challenge reunion, because Mark Wakefield, who was racing in the championship in TCR, this is last time out at Donington Park a couple of weeks ago, was also a former mini challenge racer. This is a sort of natural progression really from mini challenge racing into TCR racing, or indeed Touring Car Trophy. These cars slightly more powerful, slightly closer to a sort of top level touring car. And so it's understandable that lots of drivers are seeing this as a natural stepping stone from things like Mini Challenge or VW Cup, or maybe even the Renault Clio Cup. And James Turkington and Henry Neal, both former mini racers, and they're getting just as close now as they did in their Mini Challenge racing days, where quite often it was Henry who would have the upper hand, but James Turkington really has applied his craft well in the last couple of years, and he's starting to become the full package. And is doing well here to keep Henry Neal behind him for the time being. There seems to be maybe a couple of parts of the circuit that the Honda has an edge, but as long as I knew I'd do that, as long as James can keep his car positioned correctly into places like the hairpin at the end of the lap, and this next corner coming up Tower is another really good overtaking opportunity, and James knows it, moves over to the middle of the road. Henry Neal is super late on the brakes on the outside line. Now, he won't go right around the outside, but he might try the switchback. But again, James, canny racer, tried to cover it up, but he couldn't quite do it. Henry's up the inside now, and again, James Turkington will have to go wheel to wheel with someone through the Jim Clark S's, but there is nothing he can do this time to keep Henry Neal at bay. And Neal is into second position. That was just superior traction off the corner through the previous corner at Tower, because James Turkington took the tight line in. That meant he was slow on the exit. He tried to cover off the switchback move, and so Henry thought, right, well, I'll go around the outside instead. Wherever there was a gap, Henry was always going to go, and he is now into second position, and that actually has brought Alex Day back onto their tail as well in fourth position. So Henry Neal goes second, James Turkington down to third, but still second in TCR. And as I said, he could allow Alex Day through as well, and it wouldn't make a huge deal of difference, apart from maybe affecting grid position for race 2, which is based upon the race 1 result. So as far as that is concerned, he'll be a little disappointed maybe, having started on the front row, to perhaps have lost out on a front row starting opportunity for race number 2. Let's not forget, by the way, that Lewis Kent is still out in front. It's often the way when you're the runaway race leader, you don't get much TV time, but Lewis Kent is doing a sublime job at the moment in the Essex and Kent Motorsport prepared machine. And from Witham in Essex, the youngster, only 19 years of age is Lewis Kent, and he is dominating here in a field of pretty well established touring car names. Alex Day there, the 101 car behind the man from Colchester. That's the car being run by Handy Motorsports, the Simon Belcher run squad. And he is definitely starting to find some more pace, I think, as this race goes on. Former junior saloon car championship competitor was Alex Day. He also has done some Ginetta junior racing. Another youngster as well, only 20 years old is Alex, in a big old car as well, that Audi that was raced by Rob Austin very successfully in the British Touring Car Championship a few years ago. Rob, pretty sure, is here as well supporting the team. He usually is. And it must be nice for him to see Sherman, his old A4, back out on the circuit and perhaps about to challenge for a podium place, because James Turkington, I feel like I've cursed him here, because I said I was waxing lyrical before the race started about how good he is at tyre management and having good pace in the second half of the race, but in this one it's been completely the opposite from what we saw at Donington Park, where here today he seems to be struggling now as we go into the final 5 minutes. This man isn't, though. He says, finding some wood to touch. Lewis Kent is continuing to pull away at the head of the field. I don't think there's anything that Henry Neal can do about him. The real battle is going to be the one for the bottom step of the podium between James Turkington and Alex Day. Now, how do these two cars compare? Not only is this a TCR car going up against an NGTC car, but it's a front-wheel drive car against a rear-wheel drive car. They both run a 2-litre turbo engine, though. That is really the main thing that all of the cars have in common in the Touring Car Trophy. They all have to have 2-litre engines. They can be normally aspirated as well, though. That's why S2000 cars, for example, are permitted to race. But they all have to have 2-litre engines. But then beyond that, it can be any old touring car you want, really. In theory, if you had a 90s super touring car, it would be eligible to race in this championship. Now, there's an idea. Anyway, James Turkington, for now, has the Audi A4 to worry about, and he'll be quite grateful, I think, that he doesn't have anyone else in his mirrors. Oh, Alex now. Don't tell me Alex has got a problem as well. He slowed all of a sudden there through the complex. Has the Audi just missed a gear, or has it got a problem? Now, that car doesn't look like it's at full speed to me. Let's see if he dives for the pit lane. Shoot a flame out of the exhaust. A lot of black smoke out of the exhaust, and not a lot of... Oh, it's misfiring, isn't it? That car doesn't sound well at all. I think that Audi's got a misfire. And Alex Day, oh, what a shame for Alex Day. This was probably his best performance of the season so far. And sadly, it looks like it's about to come to a rather abrupt end. The car crawling its way through the first corner definitely has some sort of an issue. It sounded like a misfire. It was showing all of the hallmarks of a misfire. And Alex, unfortunately, is going to have to pull off the road. I think he'd be better served pulling off at this part of the circuit, rather than trying to limp back to the pit lane. The last thing you want to do, Alex, is stop in the middle of the road. Control-Alt-Delete, and off it goes again. Interesting. It could be an electrical-related problem, but that car is now most definitely back at race speed. But the damage has been done, because the time that he's lost now to James Turkington will not be regained over the final 2 or 3 laps of the race. But that was a bizarre moment there for Alex Day. Thankfully, he had enough of a margin, I think, over Darrell Wilson that he was not going to be caught by the Midlands-based driver. So he should be able to hang on to 4th if the car makes it home. I will apply a similar if to this car, because Lewis Kent was in a similar sort of position at Donington in race 1 last time out, albeit not with quite such a substantial lead, but he was leading the race going into the final couple of laps. We were saying that his debut TCR victory was on its way. There was nothing that could stop him, and then the car ran out of fuel. I'm sure the Essex and Kent Motorsport squad have learnt from that mistake. They'll have brimmed the car for this race, and with now, I reckon, 2 laps to go, Lewis Kent is looking good for his first TCR win. It will also be, if he can bring it home, the first win in the UK for the Hyundai i30N in TCR UK, a car that's had so much success around the world in international TCR racing, dominated really the WTCR Championship last year and TCR Europe as well. Lewis Kent himself has been racing in TCR Europe this season. He went out to race at Spa earlier on this season in what was a non-championship round for TCR UK. Lewis, one of the drivers that went over there and joined some of his former sparring partners from this championship. People like Dan Lloyd, for example, were racing in TCR Europe this year. And Lewis thoroughly enjoyed himself. Learnt a lot, I'm sure. And he said that in the very near future, he wants to go back and race in TCR Europe again and possibly do a dual campaign next year in Europe and the UK and maybe somewhere else as well. He was planning on racing this car in 3 or 4 different countries this year. Lewis, another driver who's come up through the junior racing ranks. He was one of the stars of the Ford Fiesta Junior Championship in the past. And as he goes on to what will actually now be the penultimate lap of the race, because it's 23 minutes plus 1 lap, And we have 24 seconds still left on the clock, so they will finish this lap, by which time the time will have elapsed to 0, and then they get an extra lap bolted on at the end. Henry Neal there in second place. You can see the gap there between first and second. James Turkington in third. Now, is Alex Day still circulating in the Audi in fourth place? I think he is. The timing screen certainly suggests that he is. But look at the time that he lost, and possibly is still losing time. There he is now coming into the hairpin. And that's a real shame for the Audi A4 NGTC car that was... It now sounds healthy enough again, doesn't it? So that was really bizarre. Can only have been something electrical, and sadly they are sometimes the hardest problems to diagnose. Once you diagnose them, they're fairly easy to fix, but finding out exactly which electronic component went wrong can sometimes be a little tricky. Lewis Kent still pushing hard. Of course he is. He's Lewis Kent. He's a youngster who's desperate to try and prove himself in touring car racing, so he's not going to back off until he sees the checkered flag, which will not be this time, but the next time around, despite the fact that time has ticked down to 0 now. Henry Neal, by the way, has been lapping quicker than Lewis in recent laps, but as you can see, the starting point was well over 10 seconds, so he was never really likely to catch him. But if things finish as they are now, they will be starting together on the grid, will Lewis and Henry, for race 2 later on, and that is a fight you would buy a ticket for, that's for sure. So across the start-finish line we go then. Last lap board will be displayed. Lewis Kent goes on to the final lap of round number 5 of the TCR UK Championship. It's been a dominant performance so far. Now, fingers crossed, everybody, that he keeps this one together now to the flag. It's been long overdue, this result, really. It took him a long time last year to get his first podium in TCR racing. Having had really good pace early on in the season, he just struggled for the good fortune that was required, really, to go and get a maiden podium. Did eventually get it in 2018, and now in 2019 it's all about getting that first race win and to challenge for the title. Remember, coming into this round, Lewis was 5th in points, but only 13 points behind James Turkington. Turkington will finish 2nd in this race, so 7 points, excuse me, will be taken out of that advantage. So he's going to halve the advantage, essentially, to basically the points leader, James Turkington. Turkington will move into the points lead in this race with the absence of Carl Swift. So it will be Turkington and Kent, who maybe are starting to emerge in the mid part of the season as the championship contenders. Through the entrance to the complex they go. Lewis Kent then 2 more corners to go. It looks as though, he says rather nervously, it's all going to come together this time. Cocks a rear wheel into the hairpin, puts the power down for the last time, and Lewis Kent, at long last, is a winner in TCR UK. He wins round number 5 of the 2019 championship here at Croft. And all of a sudden, the trials and tribulations for Alton Park and Donington Park disappear in a heartbeat as the Essex and Kent Motorsport squad can finally celebrate their first race win in the championship. Henry Neal comes home in 2nd position and wins the TCT element of the race. And there is the squad with George Grant, who they run in the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup that we'll see racing a bit later on, joining in the celebrations. And we'll also see Lewis's younger brother Bradley out in the Mazdas again later on as well. He's been getting quicker and quicker too. Henry Neal there in 2nd position. James Turkington did come home 3rd and is the 2nd TCR car home. So we'll move into the TCR UK Championship lead with Alex Day in 4th position eventually after that mystery issue 2/3 of the way through the race, with Darrell Wilson 5th, and then unfortunately Richard Woods and Sonny Wong early retirements. We know not what the reason for that was, but I'm sure that Bryn down in the pit lane will be doing some digging for us and should be able to let you know what the problem was before race 2 a bit later on. So Lewis Kent then takes the victory in round number 5 of the championship, and there is confirmation of that result then. 8.8 seconds in the end was the margin over Henry Neal in 2nd, James Turkington 3rd, Alex Day 4th, and Darrell Wilson 5th, with sadly Richard Woods in the Cupra and Sonny Wong in the VW not making it to the flag. Hyundai, Honda, Cupra, Audi and Opel, Vauxhall, the top 5 cars there, and again showing the great variety in this championship, not just amongst the TCR cars, but across the whole field as well. We've got 4 different brands of TCR car here this weekend, plus the Honda and the Audi in TCT. So a grid that may be lacking in numbers still, but as we saw particularly in the early part of that race, still is capable of delivering really good racing. And actually this mix of TCR and NGTC cars adds an extra fascination to the mix as well, which is unique to this championship, and it is actually producing some really good racing. Now imagine if we had 20 of the things out on the circuit, we really would have a spectacle then. the interest is there, definitely, and let's hope we get more and more drivers turning up to compete in TCR and indeed TCT in the near future. We were hoping to have an extra TCT car this weekend in the shape of Warren Scott in his NGTC Subaru Livorno, but sadly had an accident on the road, which meant that he wasn't able to race. He's basically all right, but wasn't quite fit enough to race, and so hopefully we'll see him out later on this season. There are more and more cars that are potentially eligible to race in the Touring Car Trophy as well, which hopefully will venture onto the circuit later on in the year. But for now, Lewis Kent is savouring the moment as the winner of the 5th round of the championship in very mild and increasingly bright conditions here at Croft. The forecast for the day is that it will be a bit sunny, a bit cloudy, but still quite warm, and hopefully no real threat of rain. So we expect conditions to be fairly static as the day goes on. And there is Lewis Kent, finally gets this moment to celebrate down in the pit lane, and in amongst it all down there will be Bryn Lucas to get all of the reaction from what was a fantastic race. Well, Bryn will be with them in a moment or two, just waiting for Lewis to finish receiving the congratulations of his team. His grandfather David there. There's Henry, who, as I said, wins the TCT class of the race and gets the handshake from James Turkington as well. Right, I think we can now head down to Bryn Lucas in the pit lane. Bryn, I think this will be rather a happy podium.
Right, well, I am here with the drivers. I've got to kind of grab them and bring them over to you at the moment because I've got a few camera issues getting tuned in the building. Lewis, let's grab Lewis over this way. Lewis, come with me. Get yourself cooled down in just a minute because finally, we can say congratulations, race winner in TCR UK.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. No, I can't thank everyone enough. Can't thank the team, all my sponsors, CMC, Car Gods, Essex Bodies, my granddad, all my family. No, it's been a very, very big team effort. The team have done an amazing job, and the car held up for once, so we've done well. But no, over the moon with it.
We thought we were going to have this chat with you probably last time out as well at Donington. That didn't quite go to plan. But today, what was your thoughts? You know, you knew you had a 9-second gap really on second place. You weren't that gap. They were fighting behind, which gave you the opportunity to move ahead. But then you've got to stay focused and think, well, kind of put all the other problems from the past behind you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Once you've got that gap, you can't let it off. If you let off, then you're going to make mistakes, going to go wrong. So it was just keep it on the power, keep it on the max performance as we could, and yeah, just kept on pulling that gap. And finally we got it. So really happy.
It's fantastic. I mean, everyone was really chuffed for you because I think out of all the drivers here, you really do deserve it, and that means you're going to be heavier for the next race. So what goes with something good, you get a bad goes alongside.
Yeah. Well, we've had to deal with the weight all last year, so we know how the car performs with it. Hopefully we can carry the weight and carry it well. But yeah, we'll just see how it has to play out.
Great stuff. Well, you've got yourself a big trophy this time. Well done.
Thank you very much.
There you go. Race winner for the first time in TCR UK. Great race win for TCT as well. We're going to head over to... I've got James Turkington further down. We'll come back to Henry Neal in just a moment. Let's head over to... Oh, no, I think I can get him as well. Thank you very much there. So I've got Henry Neal here. You seem to take up every single possible position there in the race, apart from number 1 and I think maybe number 7.
Yeah, mate. Terrible start. Totally flopped that. Still need to get my head around those. But yeah, just... got my head down and just tried to pick them off one by one. Really, we knew the car was fast, and luckily when Turks was behind Alex, that allowed me to catch up to those two. And then made a move around Alex, and then was chasing Turks, and then got past him through the S's, which was a bit hairy, but we both made it through there in one.
I was going to say some of the overtakes were a bit hairy, particularly one on the outside, and then it was looking pretty inspired by you. You seemed to have the bit between your teeth, but Lewis just way too far up the road, wasn't he?
Yeah, mate. To be fair to him, he got his head down, he got away, and he built that gap. So congratulations to Lewis. Great race for him, and all in all, from where we qualified yesterday, it was happy days for us.
And in the word of the Neals, that car looked mega out on track.
Yeah, it was pretty mega.
Well done there, second place there to Henry Neal. Let's go and get a word from Turkington. James Turkington here. This is another podium for him. In fact, he looks to be getting a few of these now. So podium last time out, Donington Park. You got another one already here at Croft.
Yeah, enjoying this TCR life. Mega day. Sort of struggled a wee bit, but glad to bring home a podium.
Alex gave you a bit of a hard time, as did Henry ahead of you there. You had to fight very hard to secure second place in TCR UK.
Yeah, no, it was a great battle. I think it spent a wee bit long behind Alex and just overcooked the brakes in the front tires, and then sort of once we got past, we didn't have that bit of optimum grip left to push on. But yeah, always happy to get a podium, I'd say.
It's always nice, isn't it?
Yeah, mega.
Congratulations there. Well done to James Turkington and all the drivers there from the Touring Car Trophy, the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy and TCR UK. As we move out of the way as Porsche Boxster comes down the pit lane. Yes, so that's it for this race. We are back very soon with the second round of the day for the TCR UK Series and, of course, the TCT. But we've got the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford Championship coming up, so don't go anywhere.